This time I revisited Power/Rangers, and welcome to my fan film reevaluation on it. Greetings and hello everyone, Anthony Mars Jr. on PR Lost Galaxy 2014 with a brand new Terra Venture podcast and my first ever fan film reevaluation, revisiting, and I bring you all podcast episode 166, presented by PR Lost Galaxy 2014's Facebook page and the Morphin Megaverse Power Rangers Facebook group of mine. If you have not seen any of those, once again, check them out now. For these last 2 hours following my recording on this podcast today on June 1st, 2015, since we are currently in month 3 of No Power Rangers Dino Charge, and we're currently in month 3 since the premiere and ongoing of Ninja, and we are already at month 3 since the premiere of that so-called abomination of a Power Rangers fan film short film, that is Joseph Kahn's Power/Rangers film. And, you know, ever since that fan film hit the internet and took the internet by storm over the course of 3.5 months ago, I have been diswary of the fact that that film, like I stated, if you have not seen my earlier video about me bashing on Power/Rangers, I guess you should check it out now before I go ahead and do my fan film reevaluation on it. And when I did that reevaluation video, when I do this reevaluation video, actually, before you do that, come back from my original review video, and then come back here for my reevaluation on it, because there's a lot of things I want to discuss here and take the time, if needed, on this video and talk about some of the things that shouldn't be there when I first saw the film the first time and witnessed the gushing gory that was Power/Rangers. I mean, ever since when Joseph Kahn and Andy Shankar, and for those responsible for making this film, they had the audacity to make the dark and gritty Power Rangers movie that a lot of people have been talking about for years, if a dark, gritty Power Rangers movie was made in the same fashion of most of the majority of today's Hollywood movies, where they're all dark, gritty characters are brooding and not barely anything like the original characters, a la The Dark Knight, Michael Bay's Transformers, Terminator, or Salvation. And every time when I just think about that stature of those movies and how much significance they have with the audience, with their respective audiences, movie-going audiences and critics, I just come to realize, I knew then and there that this was the direction that they're aiming for. And after watching this movie for now my 21st viewing since the film was released 3 months ago, am I still impressed with the stuff that Power/Rangers did, or what? No, I am not impressed. I am still not impressed with Power/Rangers, because after watching it now for the 21st time, I said, there is a lot of things more wrong with this movie than Clash of the Red Rangers from Samurai and the legendary battle from Super Mega Force. No, I'm serious. It's just worse than any of those. It is even worse. It is still as worse as Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. No, seriously. It's even worse than my Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film. You know, the one that a lot of people derided from me. It's worse than my Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film. It is worse than Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. It is worse than Clash of the Red Rangers. It is worse than Super Mega Force's half-assed legendary battle. And for some reason, it is worse than any of those. It is even worse than Trakeena's Revenge from Lightspeed Rescue. It is even worse than almost anything you can imagine of Power Rangers, and even within fan films and fandom alike. It's worse than any of those. and it's not better than that MMPR fan film, or even better than Teenagers with Attitude, or even better than Zordon of Eltar. It is, I mean, this film, when I look back at Power/Rangers, it is still worse than anything related to Power Rangers media. It is worse than that. Okay, so during this revaluation, I already spent, for the last 2 hours before I did this podcast, I had to spend 2 hours jotting down notes of the film's production and about some story points and what I believe should not be part of the movie, because whatever's not related to Power Rangers shouldn't be in the film at all. But what the hell, they wanted to do something very divisive in conjunction to that. So here we go. Here we are, Power/Rangers fan film reevaluation. We all know that Power/Rangers is a fan film to the Power Rangers franchise, mostly taking place in the ever-beloved Mighty Morphin Power Rangers era. Because you see, the thing is, and then the thing about Power/Rangers, what was very off-putting was, well, as I go through it, although despite the fact that the fan film is mostly inspired by and based on the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers era that a lot of us love more than any other incarnation of Power Rangers, and again, me with the whole anti-Mighty Morphin bashing talk here, they did throw elements of Power Rangers Zeo in there. But the thing is, with the Machine Empire and then with elements of the Mighty Morphin characters and costumes, and even Rita and Scorpina, with Rita and Scorpina the only two female villains from the Mighty Morphin era to appear in the fan film, with Scorpina having that topless nudity sex scene where she had a threesome with Zack and Divatox, which was direly unnuded. But we'll get to that when we get overgo these notes. And it's just the whole plot, when I look back at, the whole entire movie, when I look back at it, sure, it had some good action scenes, but was I ever really fond of them? No, I was not fond of them. Was I enticed with the acting quality? I'm not quite sure. Was I fond of the visual aesthetic of the film, production design, set pieces and things? Not exactly, but I do like the whole dystopian, futuristic, post-apocalyptic city environment of Angel Grove, if this was Angel Grove set in the 2020s or something. Well, in the following scenes, when Tommy is considered a ghost, Tommy, the original Green Ranger, White Ranger, but mostly we're talking Mighty Morphin. We're not talking beyond Mighty Morphin, like when Tommy was the Red Zeo Ranger or the Red Turbo Ranger, or during Dino Thunder when he was the Black Ranger. We're talking Mighty Morphin Power Rangers here. And, let's go over some more notes. We already know that the film's production team consisted of Joseph Kahn, who was the director, co-writer, editor of the film, who I did a podcast on last week. Andy Shankar, head producer of the film. Well, however, this was all Shankar's doing, but he was mostly financing the film. Kahn was just there to direct, write, co-write, and edit the film. And whereas James Vanderbeek, the actor who plays Rocky in this film, was also the film's co-writer along with Kahn. So I did not know that James Vanderbeek did some writing credits on Power/Rangers. And I'm not even quite sure. Now, suppose if I were to conduct an interview with James Vanderbeek, who played Rocky in this film right now, if I were to conduct an interview with James Vanderbeek, would I tell him that was he ever a fan of Power Rangers before joining the film? I'll try to see when I say something like that, if I come across him at a convention somewhere, or anyone associated with this fan film, short film, whatever, but when knowing I utterly despise this film. Well, Kahn and Shankar have worked on a few films with Hollywood before, such as the Dredd reboot from 2011. Before Kahn was attached to direct the short, he is known for directing the movies Torque with Ice Cube, Martin Henderson from 2004, and Detention with, Josh Hutcherson, Dane Cook from 2011. And Kahn has also directed TV commercials. I had to jot this down a note before even knowing from his biography history of what films and TV show commercials and such music videos he directed. I did not know that Joseph Kahn also directed TV commercials for such brands as Acura, Hewlett Packard, or HP for short, NASCAR, PlayStation, Budweiser, Coors Light, among others. and among other brands. He had also directed music videos for the following artists like Taylor Swift, Snoop Dogg, Katy Perry, Britney Spears, Gwen Stefani, the Pussycat Dolls, Chris Brown, Korn, the Black Eyed Peas, and among many, many other bands and music artists, to name a few that he directed music videos for. We already know that back even in my podcast, and it was also stated from Khan, that from following his approach as the director of the short film, that Khan never was a fan of Power Rangers and has dismissed it disrespectfully as a silly children's property. I've already said this before in the previous 2 videos when discussing Power/Rangers, so that's nothing new here. We've heard that statement before. And something I didn't know about the film's cast, other than just James Van Der Beek and Katie Sackhoff being in this film, most of the majority of the short film's cast comprised of mostly unknown actors, actors we never even saw before, actors we barely heard of before. While Van Der Beek and Sackhoff are the only 2 A-list actors to appear in this film as 2 Rangers from the Mighty Morphin era, with Van Der Beek playing Rocky, the former second Red Ranger, and Kimberly, the original Pink Ranger. Now, the thing is let me talk about Katie Sackhoff, about her casting as Kimberly, before we get to more notes about this. You see, Katie Sackhoff, okay, as good as she is as an actress to many, I never was that big on Katie Sackhoff, but as soon as when I saw her play the original Pink Ranger, and I said, the thing is about Sackhoff pulling off Kimberly, I don't even think she even cuts it as Kimberly. She doesn't even look like the character. She doesn't even resemble, her hairstyle, however, her hair color doesn't resemble Kimberly. Because you see, the thing is, despite the fact that Katie Sackhoff played her in this film, her portrayal of Kimberly, however, never was a blonde. Have we ever seen Amy Jo Johnson, who played Kimberly, the original Pink Power Ranger, with blonde hair? No, we have not. Kimberly's hair was usually brunette color because despite the casting of Amy Jo Johnson again, but when knowing Amy Jo Johnson, her hair is originally dark, and it's still dark. But when you cast an actress who isn't like Kimberly at all, and have her with blonde hair, you should have her play as a different Ranger with that color of hair. Like, for example, suppose if you had Katie Sackhoff as Catherine and someone else as Kimberly, well, knowing that a lot of fans of the original Power Rangers adore Kimberly more than Catherine, no offense, but Sackhoff doesn't resemble Kimberly, and I just didn't even feel her Kimberly portrayal at all. She doesn't act like Kimberly, and she doesn't sound like Kimberly. Yes, her Kimberly sounds more sophisticated and more brooding, instead of the whole, oh my god, Valley Girl, like cheerleader like attitude of hers that Amy Jo portrayed in the original TV series. But again, if Sackhoff was to play Catherine, she would have blonde hair and suppose if we had Katie Sackhoff play Catherine, when knowing Catherine in the original series of Power Rangers and as well as Zeo and Turbo throughout, Catherine was blonde. She is also of Australian descent. So why not? Suppose if you had Sackhoff audition for the part of Catherine and also try to pull off an Australian accent, and have someone else play Kimberly. That's just my opinion. Because Sackhoff, she just wasn't cutting it for me. And also, James Van Der Beek, the thing about the portrayal of Rocky that they had in this film, they should have never made Rocky a bad person. Rocky, throughout Power Rangers history, up until his departure in Turbo, and have him being written off completely from the series, Rocky never was a bad guy. He never betrayed the Power Rangers in favor of Rita and Zed or the Machine Empire. Yes, this fan film did that, but in context, in the TV series, Rocky never was a bad character. He never was a bad guy. He never was an antagonist of the Power Rangers. When he was introduced in season 2, in episodes following Tommy's return as the White Ranger and following the opening departure of Jason Trini and Zach leaving, despite their respective actors quitting the show because they demanded money from Saban at the time, Rocky was a decent guy. And also, he was also good friends with the Rangers when Aisha and Adam were along. And when Rocky, Adam, and Aisha became the new red, yellow, and black Rangers, Rocky was still a good character. But however, despite the things I've had with Rocky over the years, looking back at Mighty Morphin seasons 2 and 3, and somewhat of Zeo, I never really liked that Rocky as the Red Ranger personally. I just started to grow on me. I didn't really enjoy Rocky as much as the Red Ranger when he was the Red Ranger taking over Jason's spot as the Red Ranger. The only time I ever liked, the only season where I ever liked it Rocky as a Ranger was when he was in Zeo Ranger 3, which he was the Blue Ranger this time around at that point in the Zeo era, and Tommy was the Red Ranger. And, you know, I just didn't really think that, the whole making Rocky this rough and tough militaristic antagonist would make sense to his original character. That's not what his character was. Was Rocky ever from a military background? Fuck no, he was not. Was he a betrayer? Was he a traitor to the Power Rangers? No, he was not. Has he ever been evil? No, he has not. So where did the bits of the whole Rocky being a bad guy come from? Nowhere. What version of Power Rangers throughout the history of the franchise would depict Rocky as an antagonist? Never. We know that the only two Rangers that posed as antagonists were during season 1, when we were first introduced to the character of Tommy, albeit despite him being one of the greatest, despite him being considered by many the greatest Power Ranger of all time by most. And also along with Catherine came season 3, when following the opening story arc of leading to the departure of Kimberly leaving the team and the series, and giving her duties of the Pink Ranger to Catherine. Catherine was under Rita's spell of being evil, and also, poisoning the pink power coin and weakening Kimberly in the process, and also following Rita and Zed's intentions on capturing Ninjor and the White Falcon Zord. Tommy and Kat were the only two former evil characters turned Rangers that were evil to begin with. Rocky was never one of them. I understand where the movie was getting at, but if you're going to make Rocky one of the Rangers, you got to have him exactly like his original character. And also, for one thing, in terms of the casting of James Van Der Beek, what if you had him as, in my thought, when you guys did this movie, and I'm also looking at you, Khan. I'm also talking to you as well, since you was involved in the writing and directing process on this piece of shit. What if you had Van Der Beek play a humanoid version of Lord Zed? What if this was Lord Zed throughout most of the 14 minutes of this movie, interrogating Kimberly of the tragic losses of the following 4 original Power Rangers? If this was Lord Zed, once again, interrogating Kimberly following the disbandment of the Power Rangers. Just imagine because despite the fact that Lord Zed is not even in this movie, the only villain from Mighty Morphin, the only principal villain from Mighty Morphin present, mostly at the end, is Rita Repulsa. That was it. But just imagine this film with Lord Zed. If this was James Van Der Beek playing Lord Zed and not Rocky, then the movie would make sense, and I would praise the movie for that. But having Rocky as the bad guy just totally killed it for me. Although as much as I didn't like his character, as much as I didn't like Rocky's character, you could have at least gave Van Der Beek the role of Lord Zed. And also, imagine in the short film, what would Lord Zed's costume look like in a bootleg fashion, as opposed to, I don't know. But however, whereas Carla Perez, Rita's a suit actress and face actress from the TV show, is the only actor from the TV series to reprise her role. Okay, that's one thing. But although, when I look at Carla Perez, I barely even see... Carla, when she played Rita in this film for the end, when it was revealed that Rita was the one that killed the Rangers, Why does Rita looks like what? Well, why does Rita looks like? Okay, I'm messing up here. Why does Rita look like Maleficent? But you got her wearing black lipstick and these black do-rags that look like Maleficent's costume. And seriously, the costume just looks very low budget on my behalf. And also, if you're curious about the scene where we had Zach and the two girls that had a threesome with them following his training exercise and all that. Now, if you guys have came back watching my original review on Power/Rangers, I didn't mean to say about the two women that Zach was having sex with in that scene. Well, though in the Vimeo version hosted by them, when the film was completely uncensored, and that when they showed the scene where Zach was laying on the bed with the two girls that he was having a threesome with, saying that the two girls that he had sex with was Aisha and his one of his girls from season 1, Angela. Actually, the two girls that was laying between Zach were actually two female villains from Power Rangers, actually, but their names were slapped to the following actresses behind the roles. I mean, you had the two villains that Zach just had a threesome with was Scorpina and Divatox, and the two actresses playing them, Amia Miley and Brie Olsen, are actually porn stars in the adult film industry. Let me repeat that. Amia Miley and Brie Olsen, who played the Power Ranger villainesses Scorpina and Divatox in the fan film, are actually porn stars in the adult film industry. Aren't you guys aware of that? You guys should check out the Wikipedia article. It states that they are porn actresses and they did mostly porn for the internet, porn on home video, DVD, whatever. And no wonder I figured why Khan would hire two porn stars in a Power Rangers fan film. And don't you realize that hiring someone who is in the porn industry here in the United States would not have him get a job here at all within other forms of other film media outside of adult film, like Hollywood film, where you have them playing roles, because you see, like in Super Sentai. Now, I'm going to requote some of this stuff from Rick the Barkeep's podcast from the Onyx Tavern when he did a podcast about porn actresses who did porn in Japan before they were in Sentai shows playing as their respective villains. That the actresses that Toei cast and their respective Sentais, from like the actors who played, Zonette from Car Rangers, Celinda from Ginga Man, and Ges Kega from Go Onger, were in porn before they were in Super Sentai. Because if you have them in if you have these actresses who did porn in Super Sentai playing as one of the female heroines of Sentai, that will totally ruin probably the character's reputation and ruin the reputation of the series. If you have, suppose if you had the actress who played Luca, Gokai Yellow and, Go Kiger, and suppose if she did porn, you wouldn't even have her as Gokai Yellow. You would have her as a villain instead. But eventually they didn't do that. But it's just when they hired. It's just in this film when they hired Miley and Olsen in the role of the two female villains in Power Rangers, which actually don't even resemble nothing like Divatox or Scorpina at all. Do they even look like Scorpina and Divatox? They're just two usual porn stars that you see like strolling around everywhere in Los Angeles or so in California, Santa Monica, California, if you're like shooting a pornographic video or such with them, or a pornographic magazine, for photo shoots with them or something. If they're in lingerie and stuff, this is totally definitely not inappropriate. And from the look of this, I don't even think I want to see Divatox or Scorpina the same way I usually would anymore when rewatching any season of Power Rangers. But depicting Divatox and Scorpina as sex symbols doing lesbian porn, That's totally disservice to their original character. And I stated this before back in my Joseph Kahn podcast, well, a lot of video response, and I told him about the such about if he was to do this with, if he was to do a bootleg fan film with Andy Shankar, if they were to do bootleg fan film versions of Ninja Turtles and G.I. Joe, and if they did this the same way with their respective female characters there for each, then that would be total disrespect to their original source material. Because I know there's a lot of guys out there on the internet who likes to depict their favorite, childhood crushes, female characters in television, films, such video games, and you depict them doing pornographic situations, because that goes to show that this is some very bad fan fiction we're doing here, because you want to depict these female characters we love so much and adore, and we would like to see them do something pornographic so we can masturbate to them, jerk off to them as much as we want, until maybe sooner or later someone's dick will fall off. However, they only appear in the scene where the two had a threesome with the original Black Ranger, who is played by Gishi Gamba. Sounds kind of Jamaican, don't you think? Gishi Gamba, who played Zack in the fan film. He sounds a bit Jamaican to me. I bet. I don't even know who the actor is. I just looked up his name in the casting of who played who in this film, because he's an unknown actor and he's a no name, probably starting out, and somehow, yeah. And of course, I also mentioned about in later, after having a threesome with Zack, they later have a lesbian tongue kiss sex scene in the background. Although in the uncensored version hosted by Vimeo, we get to see Divatox and Scorpina topless with their nipples showing in their bare breasts. As much as I've always had some of these twisted fetishes of seeing Divatox in a sexual proposition, even during Power Rangers Turbo, every time I look at Divatox now, even thinking about this film, I just start having these unnecessary so-called boners when I look at Divatox now for some odd reason. And I would be utterly ashamed to see that. Now, in the opening scene of the film, when the movie starts, the Red Ranger's arm is shown, of course, featuring what appears to be an adamantium claw reminiscent to one of Wolverine's claws from X-Men in a middle finger gesture. And, you guys have already seen, millions of you have already seen the short film very much of a lot of the time lately, ever since the premiere of the film for over 3 months. And ever since when you watch the movie, and when you look back at that middle finger gesture the Red Ranger did when the movie opens up, the middle finger gesture may claim on screen in context, well, this is what I wrote. In context, in my belief, when the Red Ranger did that middle finger claw gesture, it may claim on screen that the film is in its way of saying, fuck the kiddie version of Power Rangers. This here is the adulterized version of that us grown folks should have deserved a long time ago. In that context, when every time you see the Red Ranger stick his middle finger to the screen, well, this was, again, in first person view, and, again, the whole, with the middle finger gesture in the context of the film's, way of saying, fuck the kiddie version of Power Rangers. This here is the adulterized version that us grown folks should have deserved a long time ago. Again, that's what I wrote when I was writing these notes for the last 2 hours when I was rewatching the film. Also, in the opening scene, instead of giving the Rangers and the Green Ranger their usual weapons, such as the Red Ranger's Power Sword, Green Ranger's Dragon Dagger, the Rangers' respective Blade Blasters, etc., they are given automated rifles and M1Gs of some sorts to shoot at whatever is or was they were shooting at. Because I don't see no warships of the Machine Empire in this film, but whatever it was that they were shooting at during that opening scene for that less than a minute when the movie starts, where is the Machine Empire's warships? Where are the cogs? Where are what? I don't see what's going on in the film, really. I just don't understand why did you give the Power Rangers automated rifles? And whatever. And you see, I'm pretty much on the fence of this for the Green Ranger. Tommy is the Green Ranger. That the film gave the Green Ranger a high-tech holographic version of his iconic dragon shield. You know, that's always been on the Green Ranger's chest, rather than a, you know, rather than a solid one like in the TV series and overall franchise plus, you know, Zoo Ranger. You know, I'm pretty much on the fence whether if it was a good idea to give the Green Ranger a holographic version of his dragon shield or not. But I think it is kind of okay. I think it's something to make the Green Ranger look somewhat badass in this modern fashion. Suppose when the new Power Rangers movie, again, that Lionsgate is making, what if they make the Green Ranger have a holographic version of his dragon shield rather than a solid one? Because, you know, I feel that in the context of Lionsgate's movie coming up, I think that the dragon shield, even if they do bring up Tommy and have him as the Green Ranger and not the White Ranger, that if you give him a solid version, a solidified or metallic version of his dragon shield, it would make his costume appear a bit cheesy for a big budget PG-13 light taste. But knowing Power/Rangers is an R-rated fan film to Power Rangers in a R-rated Hollywood, you know, like aesthetic to it, it wouldn't even look right if you give him a solid version of the dragon shield for the Green Ranger. So I guess giving him a holographic dragon shield was okay. I guess I have to give props for the movie for that, for the short film to give him that sort of thing, because this is probably something that a lot of fans who grew up with Power Rangers since the beginning probably have wished if the Green Ranger had a holographic dragon shield and not one where, you know, half of his torso is covered. So, and we wouldn't see the front white diamond on his suit. The convoy scene is the only, well, to me, the convoy scene is the only thing in this film that looked rather a bit decent. I like the first person, like in my notes that I wrote, I like the first person viewing of the opening scene. And to me, it looks reminiscent to Call of Duty meets Halo, but with Power Rangers. You know, like, you know, whenever you play a game of Call of Duty or Halo or Battlefield, whatever first-person shooter you love playing, this is like, imagine this was Power Rangers in the story of a Call of Duty game or Halo or Battlefield. Every time you just think about, even if you're playing Call of Duty multiplayer. That's what I really liked about that. Pretty much the only thing about this film I actually liked, aside from the Green Ranger's dragon shield with a holographic dragon shield, the first person combat scene looked very good. It just looks too reminiscent. Like, suppose this was Call of Duty, but with Power Rangers characters in the Call of Duty world. One of the duds I did not like about the film was that the Megazord gets quickly decimated by a killer robot that resembles, oddly enough, like Starscream from Transformers, or more like Bayformers. Because when you look at the Megazord's design and that robot that decimated the Megazord, it looks too reminiscent to the robots of Michael Bay's Transformers from his Transformers films. Because when you just look back at the Transformers movies that Michael Bay has done until he was fired after Age of Extinction's release last year, the Transformer robots, the thing is, they have too many mechanical parts. We can't even tell their faces apart. We can tell the bodies apart, but we just can't tell the faces. We can't tell who is Optimus Prime. We couldn't tell who is Starscream. We couldn't tell who is Ironhide. We couldn't tell who was Sideswipe. We couldn't tell who was the Wreckers. We couldn't tell who was Skids and Mudflap. We couldn't tell who was Devastator. We couldn't even tell who is Megatron. We couldn't even tell who is Soundwave of all of those characters and all of those other Transformer characters. I mean, we just couldn't even tell by that stance. It is noted to the film's plot that the Machine Empire, of course, has taken over Earth, as the Earth's government negotiate a truce and treaty with them, resulting to the Power Rangers being disbanded. And the thing is, the Machine Empire, as mentioned over and over, despite the fact that you're taking elements from Zeo within a Mighty Morphin mostly centered fan film, short film, whatever, the Machine Empire never was during the time when Rita and Zed were attacking the Power Rangers and trying to find multiple ways to defeat them. The Machine Empire didn't show up until Zeo. And supposing in certain context of the film, what if The Machine Empire was around in an earlier point, long before Zordon ever recruited the five teenagers, Jason, Zach, Billy, Kimberly, and Trini, to be the Power Rangers to face Rita. And a long context of time before Lord Zed ever showed up, and long before Tommy showed up, long before Rocky, Adam, and Aisha showed up, long before Catherine showed up, long before the Rangers of Aquitar showed up, long before Ninjor showed up. What if the Machine Empire was in conflict with Zordon at first, while Rita was facing Zordon first, then Zed facing Zordon, and then the Machine Empire? So I don't understand where the movie was getting at with the Machine Empire thing, because knowing Machine Empire was the antagonist of Power Rangers Zeo, not Mighty Morphin. In Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, we know it's obvious that in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, throughout all 3 seasons, plus the Alien Ranger arc leading to Zeo, that the Power Rangers, the original Power Rangers battled Rita and Lord Zed, although King Mondo and his army are conjointed enemies alongside Rita and Zed toward Zordon, and throughout the entire Zeo era, and knowing that also Zeo is part of the Zordon era. So, but it's just in this continuity tie of the short film that Khan and Shankar and such did. Is it just me, or is it Power/Ranger set in an alternate timeline, a much further alternate timeline from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as opposed to like in the original Mighty Morphin movie, despite that supposed to not to have everyone get contradicted by contradicting what the TV series would do in its 3rd season at the time 20 years ago, when the Rangers had to, when their original powers were destroyed and their original Zords, in the Thunder Zords, that they would have to embark on a journey to find ninja powers. So in the context in this short film, so you mean to tell me this is an alternate bootleg continuity of Power Rangers if the Machine Empire were the antagonists of the Mighty Morphin era and not Rita and, well, just Rita, since Zed didn't even appear in this film, not even Goldar, Squat Babu or Finster, or Rito Revolto, or even Master Vile? And what about Rita and Zed as foot soldiers of the Putties, Z Putties, and the Tangas? Where are they at during this film? Where is Adam and Aisha during all of this? Where is Zordon? Where is Ninjor? Where is Alpha? Where is Lieutenant Stone? Where is Ernie? Where is any of those characters? You mean to tell me all those characters were decimated and been assassinated by the Machine Empire? Are you kidding me? Again, I mean, what happened to all the other characters I mentioned? Adam, Aisha, Lieutenant Stone, Zordon, Ernie, Alpha, the Rangers of Aquitar, Ninjor. Where are those characters at in this film? You mean to tell me, despite that they weren't mentioned, that they were killed by the Machine Empire? Are you crazy? Man, this movie seriously still doesn't make sense to me, even based on what I've already written down for the last 2 hours. Despite this being a dark, gritty, R-rated de-imagining of Power Rangers, the film depicts the Rangers as grown-ups who were formerly child soldiers already disbanded from their duties as soldiers of war. And I feel that in the film's context, that this is the movie's way of saying that the Rangers are no longer the ever-beloved teenagers with attitude that Zordon recruited 22 years ago, in favor of them being, well, grown-up soldiers being disbanded by the Earth's government, and, they have to be assassinated. That just sounds a bit preachy in that taste. We know in the actual series, of course, that the Power Rangers are famously considered teenagers with attitude, enlisted by Zordon as they were handpicked to fight Rita's forces. But the film disbands this element from the original source material. I know they alternated that, but I didn't like the way how it was implemented. Now, if you look back at the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie from 1995, 20 years ago, they kept almost every element from the TV series, but set it in an alternate reality. I mean, they kept the element of the Rangers being considered 6 teenagers with attitude. At least they kept that. They kept the element of Zordon being the Rangers' mentor, but here in this short film, that's been disbanded, having Zordon mentioned. Where is Zordon? I mean, we never even got to see what Zordon will look like in this bootlegged film, and that really sucks. And what would Alpha look like in this bootleg universe that Shankar and Khan developed? I don't even quite know. They just never mentioned it. Now, I've already mentioned the note, according from my footnotes that I've written in paper, that Rocky, the former Red Ranger and successor to Jason, the original Red Ranger, is depicted as a rough-on-edge, traitorous, militaristic antagonist who has betrayed the Power Rangers in favor of joining sides with the Machine Empire. I've already made this note before that Rocky never, ever, 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 ever was a bad person. And I really hated this movie for slamming Rocky on the side of being a bad character and being a villain and a traitor to the Power Rangers in favor of joining sides with the Machine Empire. Just because this is like in Transformers. Whenever you have whatever unspecified Autobot and Decepticon joining which side, like for example, if you had a former Decepticon joining an Autobot, you still see him with the Decepticon logo. Or if you see unspecified Decepticon with an Autobot logo, he is still considered a Decepticon no matter the less. But that's what this is like, and I really, really have to keep bashing this movie, for doing that with Rocky. Rocky was part of the team. He was part of the team in the actual series. In this fan film bootleg thing, they depicted him as a bad character. Would this be a total middle finger slap in the face insult to Steve Cardenas, who played Rocky in the show right now? Would this be a total slap in the face insult to Steve? Think about it. Suppose if you were at a convention somewhere later on, sometime this year, where every Power Ranger actor and other actors from your favorite TV shows go to conventions around the world, like somewhere in Arizona and California, like San Diego Comic-Con and such. And if you met any cast member, if you come across an actor from Power Rangers, and if Steve Cardenas is involved, if you ask him a simple question about, after watching that short Power Rangers short film, which is this, and told him about it, the whole Rocky being evil thing, I don't know how Steve would react to that, because I don't even talk to cast members from Power Rangers or any TV show or movie, because I've never been near not one celebrity ever. So not in my whole life. Most of the film spends its time showcasing Rocky and Terra getting Kimberly of the Rangers a spearing and giving her the details of their respective deadly ends. A. Jason, the original Red Ranger, getting gunned down early in assassination and by the military after just 8 hours after marrying Kimberly. B. Zack, the original Black Ranger, getting laid and beating up North Korean drug smugglers. He gets killed during his training exercise. Billy, the original Blue Ranger, who comes off as an openly gay billionaire who kills his own self. In other words, committing suicide. And lastly, Trini, the original Yellow Ranger. She's dead after some treaty negotiations was made with the Machine Empire. And the thing about how they depicted Billy and Trini in this film. Okay, let me start with Billy first, because this is the more mostly hotspot talk about bit of discussion. I understand what the film was doing with the character of Billy. They made Billy a gay character in this movie. I understand this is probably a little nod to David Yost in reality, because he came out roughly 5 years ago, that he has came out of the closet and admitted to everyone that he is gay. What version of Power Rangers in the history of the entire franchise again has ever depicted Billy as a homosexual character? When? Never. Billy, throughout his entire time as a Ranger, was always heterosexual. He has always been great friends with female characters like Kimberly and Trini and Aisha, and even Catherine. And even when he left at the end of Zeo, he even had a relationship with Cestria, who is one of the the Equation characters of the of Aquitar. Following Billy's departure, and when he left the series, he left with, he left the Aquitar and met a girl there. So how can you say, I mean, why would you make Billy a gay character? Just because David Yost is gay doesn't mean Billy has to be gay. This is retarded. This is totally retarded. I mean, is this supposed to be a joke? Is this supposed to be a satirizing joke to make the Blue Ranger gay? I think this is what the media, when anyone wants to do a Power Rangers anything parody, mostly a parody of Mighty Morphin, and when you want to depict the Blue Ranger as a gay character, that's like saying the joke's on David Yost. It's like the joke is on him. And then also look at Trini. The reason why you killed her off is just because Thuy Trang is dead doesn't mean you gotta make Trini get killed off. My goodness. And also the one thing I also did not put in my notes is that if this fan film, short film, anything of Power Rangers is considered a parody of the dark gritty genre, this doesn't even sound like a parody. This is just a 14-minute film where the Power Rangers act brooding and dark and acting like every other typical character who's always been dark and gritty in today's action movies and such shit. And they don't act, and they barely act anything like their original characters, or not at all. Act like just these one-dimensional characters with no sense of a character at all, and knowing that was just utterly flat-out retarded. It's just flat-out retarded on my behalf. And seriously, you kill Trini. I mean, just because, again, you have Billy as a gay character just because David Yost in reality, who was Billy's actor from the show, is gay, and you kill off Trini with no explanation why, and following a treaty between the Machine Empire and Earth, and just assassinate her for no odd reason, no explanation. We haven't even got to see an on-screen moment with the actress who played Trini in the film when Trini, in context in the movie, was still alive. Now, this really just boggles me in the head with that. But once again, rest in peace, Thuy Trang, even though she's been dead for the last 14 going on 15 years now. Now, in the scene, and also in my notes, in the scene where Kimberly told Rocky that he never was one of the Rangers, this would be in context if Rocky in the TV series would after taking Jason's spot as the Red Ranger, would to betray the team and be one of the side of one of the side of evil, and which his original character never did. In the TV series, Rocky again was a good guy and was one of the Rangers. My God. In the TV series, despite the film depicting Jason and Kimberly as a married couple for less than 8 hours until getting killed off, the thing is about Jason and Kimberly. Now, I know most of the many of you in the Power Rangers fandom wants to imagine a Jason and Kimberly relationship, but when knowing in the TV series, Kimberly had a thing for Tommy. She never had a thing for Jason. Now, this is one of the few one of the few fucked up things this movie is doing wrong. This is one of the things that Khan and Shankar didn't get right at all with the history and the mythos of the characters. Kimberly has never had a relationship with Tommy. Kimberly and Jason barely had, not Kimberly and Tommy, Kimberly and Jason. I didn't mean saying Kimberly and Tommy, same thing. But there have been a few times during season 1 where Jason and Kimberly lock eyes to each other and say some things, but have they ever negotiated and being initiated into a love relationship? Fuck no. When Tommy came into the picture, when he was the evil Green Ranger, and when Tommy was broken out of Rita's spell, and when he joined the team, lost his powers and such. Tommy has always had a thing and has always been hung over Kimberly because Tommy had more affections for Kimberly and Kimberly had more affections for Tommy. So Khan and Shankar and others, where the fuck are you getting your facts of these characters from? Of the whole Jason and Kimberly having a relationship and not Tommy. That's bullshit. Total utter bullshit. It's utter bullshit. And then also, you got characters shooting up on drugs. I mean, in the same scene where the military shoots up Jason, and instead of not killing Kimberly, we get blood squibs on Kimberly's shirt when she falls out of the truck. Why do you got the shot of Bulk and Skull shooting up on drugs alongside the military? That's some bullshit there. And the thing is about Bulk and Skull, the way how they portrayed their once being bullies turned with hearts of gold type characters. When in one version of Power Rangers have we ever seen Bulk and Skull do drugs? When was the last time? When have we ever seen Bulk shoot up meth and all of that? Never. It was established since the beginning of Power Rangers, starting in season 1, since Day of the Dumpster until Power Rangers in Space with Countdown to Destruction. Bulk and Skull, although they may be bullies despite not having friends, they still have a heart of gold. Even up to season 2, following the introduction of Lord Zed, when he wanted to reign supreme against the Power Rangers and washing out Tommy's use of the Green Ranger powers and the last of them for good, and such like that, such. Bulk and Skull have always had admiration for the Power Rangers, although despite them picking on them during the first season, being those ever typical bullies that you don't want to mess with in high school and in any school, they've always looked up to the Rangers. They've always admired the Rangers. And even during season 3, when they wanted to join Angel Groves' police academy, they still looked up to the Rangers. Up until Power Rangers Turbo, when they lost their jobs and when Lieutenant Stone fired them. Or was it during Zeo? Between Zeo and Turbo, either one of them. And then when Lieutenant Stone was written off the series by the beginning of Power Rangers in Space, and when they met Professor Phenomenus during In Space, up until the ultimate climactic battle and swan song of the Zordon era, that was Countdown to Destruction, you had Bulk and Skull declare to themselves, went up to Astronema, that they are the Power Rangers. Like Bulk saying that he is the Blue Ranger and Skull was the Black Ranger, and everyone else in Angel Grove wanted to be Power Rangers, and admitting that they are. In which they almost would have gotten killed and have Astronema actually destroy the Power Rangers and then let them have leeway of, taking the battle and leading the final battle to her and such like that. So the part of giving Bulk and Skull the idea, giving them the personalities of them being drug addicts is utterly bullshit. It's bullshit. You don't just make Bulk and Skull shoot up on drugs and shit. That's not what their characters was. Moving on. Although the film feels like your usual typical R-rated movie of mostly nowadays, you have Power Ranger characters, mostly Rocky and Kimberly, using, in the film, using swear words like fuck, shit, and such words being heard like that. And the thing is, when you use cuss word, the thing is, in Power Rangers, we have never used not one curse word. It's a kid show, for crying out loud. But I understand it's a kid show, but I know this is a more adult. This is an adult reimagining of Power Rangers. If you want the Power Rangers using cuss words, let them use cuss words. If you want to have a Power Ranger tell another character or a villain say "go fuck yourself," let them say "go fuck yourself," and all of that. Because seriously, when have we ever heard a Ranger like Jason or Rocky or Tommy use words like fucking shit? Have we ever used them use words like that on TV? No, we have not. I know this is a fan film and on a short, whatever this damn thing is, but you should never ever give care. Just because you want this to be like an R-rated version of Power Rangers that a lot of people wanted to deserve, that they should have deserved years ago, you want to have them use words like fuck, shit, and bitch, and all those words. Cunts and all of that. Dumb fucks, ass fucks, fuck asses. Seriously. And then you also have the drugs. I mean, the drugs mentioned, like meth and cocaine. I mean, seriously, the meth and cocaine is unnecessary. And whatever. Okay, and I'm going to give you another Easter egg following the funeral scene with Trini. Now, for those who have never caught on to this, that in the scene of Trini's funeral, the red coffin banner includes the insignia of the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers. And let me repeat that. In the scene of Trini's funeral, if you watch that bit, if you can barely see it, the red coffin banner on top of the coffin with Trini's dead body includes the insignia of the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers. Okay, now you made at least a small Lightspeed Rescue reference where you have the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers' insignia on top of the coffin of Trini's body. And where is that Lightspeed Rescue reference coming from? The Lightspeed Rescue Rangers didn't exist in the Mighty Morphin era neither. They were the post-Zordon era. So where is that bit coming from? When knowing in the TV series context and throughout the history of Power Rangers, the Lightspeed Rangers didn't exist until 8 years later. Prior to Lightspeed Rescue, it was still the Zordon era. So, Khan, you guys are some of the most incompetent, outwrought, disrespectful writing team I have ever seen for a Power Rangers short film anything. I already stated that Rita's costume in this film is reminiscent to that of Maleficent's. You know, if Maleficent's costume and Sleeping Beauty and even Angelina Jolie's costume, although when we seen Angelina Jolie pull off Maleficent in that movie last year, Jolie's Maleficent had multiple costume variants. You know, sometimes you have her wearing a black costume, sometimes you have her wearing a brown costume, sometimes you have a whatever. But when has Rita's costume and her headdress ever been black? Are you saying this is Rita Repulsa gone Maleficent? That's not what her... Well, yeah, maybe Rita's costume is a bit reminiscent to Maleficent, but I don't really... I'm not that fond of it as much here. I'm not. And so by the end of the film, it has remained that the only two characters that made true sense to their original characters after watching this movie for the 21st time now, whose motivation stayed true to their original characters, were Rita and Tommy. Every other character that they had in this movie, like Kimberly, Rocky, Jason, Zach, and others, have not stayed to their original character motivations, though this is a dark, gritty reimagining of Power Rangers. I mean, the way how they depicted Jason, they didn't even give Jason a damn character. They just, have him married to Kimberly and gets killed off early in the film. Then we get to Zach's bit. He has a threesome with Scorpina and Divatox, and he is this LeBron James, action junkie who beats up a bunch of North Koreans who are drug dealers. Then you make Billy an openly gay millionaire who ultimately kills himself and commits suicide. And then you kill off Trini, who obviously haven't even got a chance to shine in this movie, other than getting killed off and getting offed off while being mentioned, but not being seen in person and in character. That is some load of bullshit. And then you make Tommy as this ghost-like character that the Rangers totally pretty much forgotten about ever since that treaty between Earth and the Machine Empire was made. So where the fuck did that come from? When has Tommy ever been a ghost to the Rangers? The only time, in the TV series, the only time when Tommy would take leave from the team was during season 2 when Tommy officially lost the Green Ranger powers for good. He would leave the team for a few episodes and then he would come back in the two-parter White Light as the new White Ranger. So where the fuck did that come from? What you making Tommy this brooding, Christian Bale-like Batman version of him if he was this dark brooding version of this is like Christian Bale as a Power Ranger. I mean, I'm on the fence whether this was a good idea to make Tommy like Christian Bale's Batman, but I'm not really all that fond of it. Whatever. I'm just not fond of it. So, and And then also you have Bulk and Skull shooting up on drugs. Where the fuck did that bit come from? So, okay, so reception-wise, when just earlier in retrospective, when Power/Rangers was released in late February of this year, there were 2 versions of the film that was released on Vimeo and YouTube, which is heavily disregarded. Well, with the Vimeo version, including the topless Scorpina and Divatox scene, which is heavily disregarded in YouTube's version, due to YouTube's privacy concerns, term of use, and community guidelines. Because whenever you post a video with at least a single scene of nudity in there, you know, YouTube will catch you with the video with nudity in it, and they will block the video or just take the video down, give you a community guideline strike, and you're fucked. And also, for some reason, ever since when I heard of this film back 3 months ago, what is up with the hype for Power/Rangers? What the fuck is so great about this film? And from what I recall when I was reading the Wikipedia entry for this piece of shit, the film has received massive acclaim, mostly from cast members from the original series like Amy Jo Johnson, who played Kimberly, and Steve Cardenas, who played Rocky. Now, I'm on the side of Jason David Frank, and I had to choose his side about why he hated the Power Rangers short, and stating that the film is not for kids, and I have to agree with Jason David Frank that he did not enjoy the film, and this wasn't Power Rangers, and it's not appropriate for kids. I mean, with the cussing and the drugs and stuff, that's not Power Rangers. It's not Power Rangers at all. And then we also, and even following since the overnight success of the fan film, that the film was taken down by Saban because they had to give the film a massive copyright strike to the people responsible for this until the film was reinstated around the 27th of February. And after when the so-called faux pas copyright claim was removed, then the film is back up on YouTube and everybody's enjoying it like fucking hell. But personally, I fucking still hate this movie. I fucking hate this movie to death. This movie is still an utter disgrace to the Power Rangers franchise, and I absolutely do not even... Okay, I'm getting worked up for nothing, but in conclusion, if you guys want to do a dark and gritty version of Power Rangers like you always wanted to, go right ahead, but for the love of God, if you want to do a dark, gritty version of the Power Rangers, do it right. Do it right do the film justice. Do the characters justice. Do the overall mythos justice. But seriously, this film is not even a Power Rangers movie. And I'm going to say it again, it's worse than Turbo Power Rangers movie. It is worse than Clash of the Red Rangers from Super Samurai. It is worse than Super Megaforce and its overall legendary battle. It's worse than any of those. So in favor, fuck this movie. I'm just going to move on and find something else to do. If you guys want to drop and throw in some very negative comments and dislikes because I said some very hateful things about this movie, go right ahead. Because seriously, there is a lot of things, again, more wrong with this film than anything related in Power Rangers media where the fandom has some personal dislikes towards something. Because I know what you guys are thinking about this video right now. And excuse me for yelling and screaming. I understand there's people right out there who don't like the yelling and the screaming aspects of when someone is shouting for nothing when discussing certain topics. But this is just... I just needed to let this shit out because... I have a hard time sometimes, or a lot of the time, justifying to certain things. You know what I'm saying? I just have a hard time justifying to certain things when knowingly. I mean, this film doesn't even act. Again, this film is a total slap in the face disservice to me as a fan of Power Rangers after being a fan of the franchise since I was a little boy. And then I get older and I look at the Power Rangers in a darker light when knowing with all the blood and the violence and the sex and the drugs. That's not intolerable. I understand the hype for this fan film has died down, but I don't even hear nobody talk about this film anymore. I'm like the only person who's still hung up over the film because it's a piece of crap. It's a piece of crap. I say it's a much more bigger turd than my Power Rangers fan film. Let's just say it and put it in that way. I would say that my Power Rangers fan film of you know what is more worser than this. I would say that Terminator Salvation is worse than this piece of garbage. I would say G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra is worse than this piece of garbage you call a Power Rangers film. I would say the new Ninja Turtles movie from last year is a much more bigger turd than this half-assed piece of shit Power Rangers film. Or any other movie right now out there that I be seeing being advertised and people talking about it so much that is more bigger turds than this half-assed piece of shit Power Rangers film. So therefore, I'm giving Power/Rangers a 0 out of 10. There, I said it. I gave it a 0 out of 10. You don't like my rating? I'm off for now. Peace out. Anthony Mars Jr. on PR Lost Galaxy 2014. Logging off. And I'll see you guys, I don't know when. I need to calm my nerves. Thanks for watching.